Have you ever started a project or goal and never finished it? For the most part, the project just seems way too long, or it's not adding the value you were hoping for, or you lose your vision and it seems pointless. Recently, I've been studying how you can create meaningful and valuable goals that you'll actually finish. I personally believe it only takes 3 steps. The first step is creating a Thrive list or a 100 list. The second step is using the Scrum Framework. Well, sort of. The third step is rewarding your wins. With that intro out of the way, let's talk about creating a Thrive list. You're probably wondering, what the heck is a Thrive list? I originally stumbled on the idea of a Thrive list from a professor at BYU named Stacy Taniguchi. I definitely said that name wrong. Professor, if you're listening to this, please correct me. I have no idea how to say your last name. I found an article about him talking about his life story and how he has achieved great things in his life. From his article, he's rock climbed Yosemite, paddled the Nile, stood on the highest mountain of 6 different continents, speaks Japanese, and has built his own home. Oh, not to mention he got his PhD in his 50s. Later on in his article, he explains how none of these things happened by accident. He meticulously planned each one of these goals. All of his achievements were part of his list of 100, or in other words, his Thrive list. So let's talk about how you can build this. To start making your Thrive list, you need to understand your values. Ask yourself what you want to accomplish in your life. Think about the short and long term. Do you want to write a book? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to hike Everest? Make sure these goals aren't just monetary goals, but also add value to the world in some way. You want to have goals that make you a better person and also can help others. Keep in mind there's only really one rule for the Thrive list or list of 100. Once you write it down, you can't remove it. So think about what you want to achieve and have a rough draft ready to go. Once you have this rough draft of things you want to accomplish, it's time to start asking yourself why. Why do you want to write a book? Is it because you've always wanted to be a writer? Why have you always wanted to be a writer? If you don't have a good reason to do something, you shouldn't do it. Also, if you don't have a good reason for you to do something, you're not going to accomplish your goals. So you have to ask yourself why 3 times for each one of these items on your list. After you go through your whys and feel good about the items on your list, add it to your Thrive list. Speaking of Thrive list, I do have a free Notion template in the description of this video. Feel free to hop on there and create your Thrive list in the Notion template. Throughout this process, it's going to be really hard to have a list of 100 things. And that's totally fine. Start with 20 to 30 items, or 10 if that's all you can get. Keep in mind, you can't remove anything from the Thrive list or 100 list, but you can add things. So throughout your life, you're going to be adding things to this Thrive list. Once you have this list of 10 to 20 things, we can start working on them with Scrum principles. If you're unfamiliar with Scrum, here's a quick breakdown for you. Scrum is founded on empiricism and lean thinking. Empiricism is the idea that you gain knowledge through experience, and it also means you make decisions based on what you observe. Lean thinking is all about reducing waste or things that are not necessary. The idea is to work fast, learn from what you're doing, and reduce waste. In other words, Scrum focuses on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. It's kind of the idea of 20% of the things you do have 80% of the value. Scrum helps you determine that 20% that's going to give you 80% of the value. Scrum is used by some of the top tech companies in the world to build complex software faster than anyone else. And this framework does it all. We're going to be using some of Scrum's main principles for this. The first step is to organize the goals you just made in your Thrive list. You're going to order it by, what do you think is the fastest one to build? Which one are you most passionate about? Which one do you want to do the most? Put those at the top of your list and order it accordingly. I would recommend putting the ones at the top of the list that you think you can get done the fastest, just so you can get some small wins starting off. We will then choose 1 to 2 goals to focus on for the next little while. Now we're going to break these goals into projects. The goals are more high level and the projects are more manageable chunks. For example, if my goal is to start a business, a good project could be determine business ideas and do market research. Think about those 1 to 2 goals you just chose and what projects need to be done in order to complete those goals. Once you have a few of these projects, it's time to put actionable tasks into each one of these projects. You're going to break these projects into even smaller action items for you to do. Something that you can get done in a day. For example, if my project was determine business ideas and market research, a task could be identify business idea or niche. Could be conduct market research for that specific business idea or niche. Validate idea with customers. Set up an LLC, etc. One project should have 2 or more tasks associated with it. The next step is to plan out your sprint. Plan to accomplish your tasks and projects in a sprint. You can do more than 2 weeks, but I would recommend doing 1 week. I feel like it's just more manageable that way and easier to track. At the beginning of the week, just think about how much time you can dedicate to these specific tasks and projects. For instance, if you only have 10 hours a week, then don't give yourself a ton of projects and tasks for you to do. What you're going to do is you're going to take the tasks from the specific projects and add it to your sprint These tasks should be things that you can get done in that 1 week period of time. After you put it in your sprint backlog, the things that you're going to get done for that specific week, guess what? You're going to order it again. You're going to order it on what is the most valuable thing for you to get done this sprint, all the way down to the least valuable thing. One important thing about a sprint is you never remove a task from the sprint unless absolutely necessary, which is pretty rare. The next thing you're going to do is reflect and adapt at the end of each one of your sprints. You're going to ask yourself 4 questions at the end of your sprint. What went well? What went unwell? How can I improve? Make sure to add your improvements to the next sprint so that you can get better each week. And if each week you get a little bit better, you're going to accomplish your projects and goals so much faster. The end of your sprint is also the time to adapt. If you find that your project isn't going to get done and you need to do different things, do those things. You're also going to plan out your next sprint during this reflection period. The last step is something you kind of do throughout the entire process. You need to constantly update and document what you're doing. Since you're only going to be able to give yourself 10 to 15 hours a week, maybe 20 hours if you're lucky, on these little side projects or tasks, you need to be very good about documenting your work. For each one of your tasks, document where you're at and your thought process while you're doing it. If you don't do these things, it's going to take you forever to hop back on that task and try to complete it. But if you've already written out documentation or things that you've done or things that you've thought, you just read that on the task and you're good to go. You can start off right where you left off. If you want to learn more about Scrum, I put a link to their main website in the bio below. Feel free to look at Scrum and implement anything else you feel like would be helpful to you. This is the last thing. Reward your wins. This is the best part of any goal tracking or goals that you make. It's time to celebrate your wins. Do you remember when you were a kid and your parents would reward you for cleaning your room? Or reward you for times when you've completed something really challenging? It's the same kind of thing. Every time you complete a project, give yourself a pat on the back. Each project should have a reward associated with it. So the reward for each project shouldn't be something huge. It should be something less than $10 and small. For instance, if you complete a project, it shouldn't be going to Disneyland. It could be getting ice cream. It could be doing a movie night. It could also be having friends over. It should be a small reward that you're looking forward to. Nothing more than maybe $20. I think that's the max that you should spend. Between $10 and $20. Now, when you complete one of your main goals that are part of your Thrive list or list of 100, it is time to party. That is incredible. When you complete one of those, you need to do something to reward yourself for the hard work that you put in for that goal. When you achieve these goals, it should be like a weekend getaway or going to Disneyland. It's just an experience that you would really enjoy, but something bigger. I would say anything above $20 is a good reward for completing those goals. Another thing is to document your wins. This is awesome because then you can go back and look at the time when you achieved that goal and what you did to celebrate. It feels really good to know that you've actually accomplished something. The last thing is to share your achievements. Let your friends and family know that, hey, I just completed one of my goals or I just completed one of my projects. Have them celebrate with you. That also motivates you to complete your goals. Just to conclude, this is just something that I've found is very helpful for me. It's a framework that I use. I have my own Thrive list. I try to use Scrum principles to complete my goals, and I try to reward myself for achieving these projects. When I do these things and I'm really on it, I feel really good and fulfilled about the things that I'm doing in my life. The main purpose of this is the journey is just as important as the destination. We want to make the journey fun so that we will want to do the journey, so that we can get to the destination. Happy goal setting. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe to this channel if you like this content, if you want more of it. Also like the video, helps me out a super ton.